I'm Jen.
No, I'm Jen.
And this is Talk Dogs with Us. So today's topic is going to be on how to relate behavioral or body language information as a professional back to owners.
We're communicating with owners about their dog's behavior or body language.
Yeah. How to kind of get them on the same page or in the same book.
Or same chapter, at least.
Yep, somewhere close. So who is this discussion for? I think we aim a lot of this discussion at folks in vet med and trainers, groomers and shelter workers, probably even daycare workers could really
honestly
have
daycare
those conversations.
Workers, that
wow. A little Elmo commentary.
I hadn't even thought about daycare workers.
He's never been to daycare
and
a day
how
in his
they
life.
have to relate how their dog is behaving with other dogs to owners.
Yeah, I think mentioning daycare workers is probably really important because they probably have to have you're not invited back hard conversations quite often.
Yeah.
Daycare workers having to have those hard conversations where maybe the dog is genuinely uncomfortable and the owner is relying on daycare because, you know, maybe the dog has some separation issues or anxiety issues and they work from home and they, you know, are on Zoom all day and that is troublesome for the dog and sending it to daycare is an easier option, but the dog actually isn't comfortable at daycare, right? And so having those hard conversations with owners, you know, probably not super easy.
No, definitely not.
Thinking about how to think about it. I think the kind of train platform I want you to get on for thinking about this episode is coming into a situation where you are almost not speaking the same language as another person. They're speaking a dialect.
Maybe even
dog.
about someone else with a third language.
Yeah, you're dealing with a translator that speaks a different dialect of your language than you do. There's going to be commonality. You're going to be able to talk about things, but there's going to be things that are just going to be lost in translation because you are going to have a different understanding of the tertiary language, the third language that the animal is not. It's not a language per se. It's more of a reaction, but body language, which is kind of a bad name, but like body language, you might have your own skills and training and expertise around that. And then the person has their skills and expertise and knowledge around their dog. So you're going into these healthcare situations knowing that there's a language barrier. And I think thinking about knowing that it's going to be incomplete and imperfect communication can be helpful to set your expectations at a different place than I'm going to go talk to somebody who has the exact same training, knowledge, and expertise that I do, and we are going to make the same decisions together. I think that if you set yourself up to say this could be rocky and I'm going to go in there with a sense of compassion for the owner and the pet, that we might be able to make better outcomes together.
What would thinking about how to think about it be for trainers?
For trainers, I would think about it the same way, but I would think about it as a long haul. In the vet med example, presumably the patient is in for something acute. They need treatment now. You can't say, well, I'm going to send you home with handouts and you're going to think about it. In the training example, I would think about it a little bit more like a marathon, and the vet med example would be a sprint.
Yeah.
So in the training example, you might have more time and you might get more chances to point out, hey, did you notice that whale eye? Hey, did you notice the paw lift? Hey, did you notice the lip lick? And I think you would be there as a guide to shepherd an owner through their learning journey. And you are just going to come across some people that are going to just shut down because this information is too much, too hard, or nonsensical to them.
Yeah. I think groomers probably fall somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
They probably have to have a foot in both worlds.
Yeah.
Where they have regular clients that they are regularly seeing the same dog, and to some degree they do become a little bit of an expert on that dog at the groomer at least.
Yeah.
And so then they have to think about how to relate the behaviors they're seeing to the owners in a way that the owners can understand, and then hopefully work on, or at least not make worse, outside of the grooming salon.
And I think that's why we get so many instances of he was fine at the groomer, he was fine at the vet, is because these conversations are not easy.
Yeah. They take time.
They take time. They take relationship building with the person.
They take a lot of energy from me.
They do.
Because it requires so much empathy.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, like, you know, we talked about fine being like a dirty word, but I understand why people use it.
It's easy.
Because that just gets you...
That was easy.
That's exactly what it is. You get... you can just put a little, like, rubber stamp on the visit and say, you know...
That was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. Let's just keep going, right? And I, you know, in a care field where there's a lot of burnout, you know, I completely understand why that happens. But I think if you have the extra capacity to push through that, I think you can really make beautiful things happen.
Yeah. The collaborations that can happen between owners, groomers, trainers, vet staff, even shelter staff can be miraculous.
Yeah.
I think that shelter staff probably have also a unique viewpoint because they, at that point, they might be the expert on both dogs in general and that specific dog.
Right. Because they're seeing that dog at the most stressed, presumably it will ever be, hopefully. You know, just because sheltering ain't easy.
No, sure ain't. For no one. Don't worry.
And, you know, they have watched that dog maybe grow and open up to new people, or they've watched that dog kind of decline from being...
they've watched the behavior changes.
Right, yeah, they've seen all the changes.
And they've seen that dog in different scenarios. And so I'm sure I would love to hear from shelter workers on ways that they use, like different tools, techniques that they use to communicate with potential adopters, volunteers, their peers or coworkers about behavior.
Yeah.
Because in a shelter setting, that was fine can be so detrimental.
Yeah.
And things can so easily get out of hand, be missed, not clear.
Yeah. So where do you want to start with this one?
Well, we're going to be talking about communicating with owners about their dog's behavior.
Yeah. That's a complicated one because
there's a lot of different facets to it.
Yeah.
Because we could be talking about, let's say, dog trainers talking to owners.
Yeah.
And are we talking about behaviors that we're both seeing in person together? Or are we talking about a behavior that the owner's describing? Or are we talking about describing a behavior that happened when the owner wasn't present?
Yeah. The other part of that is sometimes owners will want to replicate. Let's say they have a reactive dog to other dogs. They will want to set up a scenario where they show me what a dog reacting looks like. And then I need to say, it's okay. I believe you. I am aware that this is a thing that happens, but I don't need you to intentionally trigger your dog in that moment.
Right. I know what fear aggression looks like.
You know, another thing would be in a vet med setting when you have to tell an owner that
how their pet tolerated treatments.
Yeah. Yeah. How their pet tolerated treatment, or maybe that you can't attempt a treatment a second or third time because the first time was really bad.
Yeah. Which might be something that you saw together.
Yeah.
Or it might be something that you saw without the owner present. So if it's something that, let's say you go into a room to give a dog outpatient GI treatments and the dog is hackles raised, low growling, maybe that high-pitched whine that they do, and they're stiff backing up to the owners, and the owners are like, oh, it's fine, he'd never bite anyone.
Right.
And then you have to explain to the owner that, don't worry, I'm not afraid of your dog.
Right.
However,
I'm doing what's in his best
your
interest.
dog is afraid of me, and I
Correct.
don't want that to be worse.
Yeah.
So how can we compromise to make this more humane, more safe, and with less fallout as possible?
Right. Right. Considering that each visit to a vet hospital or clinic is a learning experience for the dogs, right?
Everything. Every day is a learning experience.
You know, like I don't think I was born afraid of the dentist. I think I had a kind of a crummy experience as a kid. And I think that is something I think about every time I go. That adds to the, obviously it's uncomfortable and like nobody really likes it, but like, I mean, except maybe you.
I was wondering, was I born loving the dentist?
I think maybe.
I'll have to think about it.
I think you were a special egg. I think there's a little bit of a negative learning history, right? I went there. It was a real bad time. And so every time after that has been harder for me to engage with.
Yeah, I feel like when I am talking to owners in those kinds of situations, I try and describe the body language that I'm noticing. And I try and point out every little piece of body language to the owner until they literally can't tolerate it anymore.
Yeah.
And then they believe me.
Just really got to give it to them.
Not just beat them down with the body language. Body language beat down. When I'm thinking about trying to explain to an owner how their pet behaved while they weren't present in a veterinary or grooming situation, I always try to remember that the owners are coming in with their own biases. And so they might have preconceived notions about the words that I'm using
that their dog
I don't
might
know
be
about.
Their dog might be naughty or mean.
Right. Some people might get triggered when you say the word aggressive, whereas other people would get triggered more if you said the word mean.
Yeah.
So a lot of times having that conversation either in person or on the phone is going to be the easiest, because then you can obviously use your customer service skills to tailor the conversation to a way that they can understand and appreciate what you're saying. Because obviously, if you upset them in the beginning, they're not then going to listen to all the other things you have to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, from a teaching perspective, from a trainer perspective, I have some handouts of body language that were drawn by Lily Chin, who we've mentioned before. And I encourage owners to keep them handy. And I have had a lot of success with people putting them on their fridge. And then they're sort of just like passively seeing those body languages, like the little body language cartoons every day. And then I've had quite a few people come back and say, oh, I noticed my dog doing X that was on the sheet. And I think they only notice it because I'm like passively like subliminal messaging body language to them.
Where did you get those handouts? Where can other people find them?
So the handouts I like the best are from an Australian vet behavior team. And so if you look up the vet behavior team, they're an Australian group and they have these wonderful resources on their website.
Can you throw a link?
I can put a link in the show notes.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Are those resources allowed to be used for trainers to give to their clients?
As long as there's credit, I believe you're okay. They have a Creative Commons license on them.
Perfect.
That I think you can read about what you can and you can't do. I don't think you can put them like on a website commercially, but you could recommend for someone to look at them.
Perfect. I feel all the time.
Wow.
So many feels. Wow. When we're describing behaviors to owners, or when owners are describing behaviors to us, I feel like it's one of the most important things. If we could just delete fine, the word fine, from the vocabulary of body language.
I don't want to hear fine unless we're talking about
Hair.
spaghetti.
Literally.
Any of those.
Nothing else.
Not hair spaghetti, though. That's awful.
No. But in dog body language, no one's fine.
No one's fine.
No, cats aren't fine.
Mm-mm.
Dogs aren't fine.
Mm-mm.
Humans, none of us are fine.
Nope.
We're not okay.
Fine's not a
It's like
state
that
of
meme.
being.
The meme with the guy in the room and the whole thing's on fire.
Oh, yeah, the little dog, yeah.
And he says, "I'm fine.
This is fine.
This is fine."
Yeah, it's not.
It's not fine,
It's
typically.
not.
So try and use actual words, actual body language, and terminology that owners can understand.
Yeah. I think pointing it out a lot is another training technique that you've seen me do in my class for young puppies, where one of the lessons, while we're letting the puppies play, we take turns pointing out body language and describing it to the owners. So as they're watching their puppy play, I can say, oh, that puppy just shook off. He thought that interaction with the other puppy was a little too spicy for him. And so he said, wow, I got to get that out of my body. Or I can...
Spicy.
Spicy. Why is it spicy? Or pointing out, more than just a dog cowering, pointing out the more subtle things. I had an owner at one of the socials we do for the young dogs say, oh, just turn around and tell him off. And the thing is, the dog politely the dog was very politely like averting her gaze and tucking her tail and not making eye contact. And she shouldn't have to escalate to the point where there's a snap, a growl, or a bite. There's so much more that she was already doing that, unfortunately, that owner just wasn't trained to see.
And when you just said all those things, I got a picture in my mind of what that puppy was doing. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly how you can explain things to owners.
Yeah.
And how you can teach owners to communicate about their dog, which can only be better for dogs in general.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think proactive versus reactive, right? Proactive being, let's teach owners from the first time they acquire a puppy or a dog to think about canine body language as a language worth learning because it reflects the internal state of their dog. But then there's going to be reactive, right? You work in an ER and a dog comes in with an issue and you want to try to wake, but you walk into that dog, like let's say you described it earlier with the GI outpatient treatment, you walk in and that dog is cornering, itself and cowering and hackles raised. And, the owner says, oh, you can just do it because he would never bite, because they view a bite not as a end of the line resort for a dog to reach to, but as a moral objection that their dog would never do, right? Their dog is a good dog, their dog would not bite, are not statements that reflect reality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so in the reactive, what do you think about telling that owner, hey, we're going to have to do this sedated?
Yeah. It can be hard because obviously sedation isn't benign. It comes with inherent risks, and it also isn't free. It costs money, and that's not always a resource that's available.
Right.
It also costs time, and that is also not always a resource that's available in a busy veterinary setting or grooming setting. However, it is important to have the conversation with the owner so that they can decide how far they want to take it. Because if that were my dog, my boundaries would be very different from, let's say, Kevin down the street has a dog that really doesn't need to leave his house. He doesn't have guests. This is an older dog who's 7 years old. He's always been this way at the vet. The vet has always put a towel around his neck, or more likely put a muzzle on him and done the things, and it's always been quote unquote fine. And we know that Kevin isn't someone who, because they have told us that they aren't someone who is going to be doing intensive medical care for their dog,
right,
because it's not right for their situation,
right,
for whatever reason. And so in that situation, maybe using a towel, food in a muzzle, and the owner in front of the dog is the best scenario.
Yeah.
But you can't have that decision without talking to the owner and coming up with some sort of compromise.
Yeah, and you need to come together and kind of, I feel like you're agreeing on a shared reality that you start off in two different worlds.
That's a very good perspective.
Like, you are presumably, if you're listening to this, a pet professional that has years of experience or years of interest, right? I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and goes, I'm going to be a vet tech today. I think there's probably an underlying interest before that I'm going to be a vet tech today thought happens, right? So you may have been interested in medicine, interested in animals, interested in dogs, And you may have been consciously or subconsciously picking up on these body language things to just be ahead of the curve for, our fictitious man, Kevin, who maybe his interest lies elsewhere and he has a dog for companionship and he takes good care of that dog, but the dog isn't his area of expertise or area of interest. But Kevin's area of expertise would be his dog.
Right.
And so how do you bring together those two worlds and say, this is my experience in this field, this is what I'm familiar with, while still respecting Kevin's knowledge of his own animal and what works best for them as a team?
Right, because at the end of the day, the owners are the expert on their dogs. They're the ones who live with that dog nearly 24/7, 365. They know that dog first thing in the morning to the middle of the night and all the times in between. And they've seen that dog in numerous situations. Mm-hmm. So we have to trust that they are bringing a level of expertise that we couldn't possibly perceive by not living with that dog or interacting with it so much.
Right. And I think the hard part is their expertise might not be coded the same way that ours is.
Yes. And it can be hard to kind of break down and find the same language between pet owners. But that's where our expertise can come in, and we can kind of tailor our language to ways that we know or suspect the owner can understand. And if they don't, we can check in and then continue to talk about it until we are both at least in the same chapter of the same book.
Yeah.
We might not ever be on the same page, but as long as we're a few pages apart, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about a veterinary medicine setting. Mm-hmm. Trainers, hopefully we're on the same page as our clients.
Right,
because
your clients in a training in a training situation are reaching out to you for education. And they may not know it. They may think they want to just alter their dog's behavior and that is it. But they are sort of asking for education versus a vet med situation where they are reaching out to you for health help, especially in the acute, right?
Right.
Because presumably even, our guy Kevin here is asking for help with his dog, and he may be guided and shaped by biases, but he did come here asking for help. And you can make all the judgments you want about, well, he should have done this and he should have done that. And, he should have asked for help earlier. But the real thing is the case before you is he's here now. And now is the situation we have to do something about.
Exactly. We can't do anything about the things that coulda, shoulda, woulda been done. And also we're not in his shoes.
Right. Right.
So that's quite frankly none of our business.
Sure. When I was working in sheltering, I did do a fair amount of education via handouts, which only goes so far. I mean, I love a good handout. I love them. But you can lead a horse to handouts, but you can't make him eat them, or however the saying goes. Yeah, that's it. So, you can make all the beautiful handouts that you want, or you can, pull ones that you find on the internet to share. But I don't know that you can make a person understand them. They have to be in a space to accept and learn new things.
Yeah. One of my biggest tips is to ask owners for videos and then go through the video with the owner at half speed and just point out every single bit of body language.
Oh, that's good.
Because my biggest tip to anyone wanting to know more about dogs is to simply observe body language.
You had a good tip I heard you say to somebody one time where you told them to concentrate on one body part a week.
Oh.
And just...
That was a great idea that I must have had at some point.
It was a good one. Hey, this week is ears week. Next week is tail week. Next week is I don't know, muzzle
feet.
week.
What are the feet doing?
Yeah, what are them feet doing?
Because I know why that happened, because when I first started reading dogs' body language, I was maybe 3-4 years into rescue and the dog world, quote unquote. And I could not tell if dogs were stiff or not because I couldn't understand what that meant until I started breaking down their body parts and looking at how a specific dog's body part changed in moment to moment.
It's like eating an elephant. You got to do it one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Talk Dogs With Us is an informational podcast and not a substitute for qualified medical advice.
Are you a pet professional or parent looking to learn more and challenge your current assumption about our pets? Then let's go on this journey together at our website, talkdogswithus.com. Give us a bark at Facebook and Instagram at Talk Dogs With Us. You can help keep the conversation going by subscribing to our Patreon. Art direction by Alex Oren, theme song and audio engineering by Stephen Rossblock. Check out more from him at stephenrossblock.com. Thanks for listening.